Turn me up a little bit, or just a little bit more. I got a message that I want to send across the world. Listen, baby.
What's going on, guys? It's been quite a while, and I apologize for that. I actually have a video that I'm going to record shortly all about why that was the case, but I was compelled to turn on the camera today after losing another building block of my childhood, being Hulk Hogan, after losing previous earlier this week in Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Now, I came to feel very differently about those two people, but, and actually intended to talk about Malcolm-Jamal Warner here, but I think there's a tie-in, because in preparation for my live that I was doing earlier this week, I was gathering photos of child stars because I thought it would be a good topic for my live. And in the process of gathering those photos, it really stirred up a lot in me, which was unexpected. I don't consider myself a very emotional person, and that's not to brag. I actually wish I was more emotional, to be honest. Sometimes it's quite awkward in situations where I should be feeling some type of way. I don't. I very distinctly remember at my grandfather's funeral, I didn't emote in front of everybody, and it was awkward. It was uncomfortable. Like, I wish that I could. I felt the sadness. I just didn't react that way. So when the emotions come, it's quite random. Even when my dad passed, I did emote that day, but not like immediately after it happened. It took like a couple days. I think I was like smoking a cigar days later, and all of a sudden I started having these thoughts. But anyway, one thing that occurred to me was how much I pattern my behavior off of Theo, the character that Malcolm-Jamal Warner played on The Cosby Show. How much as a little kid I watched him and modeled my behavior after him. Just the way that I related to people, the way I related to the world. I didn't come from a big family, but Theo was kind of like my big brother. And one reason for one conclusion I've come to is I watched entirely too much television. I watched a lot of TV. People say that they were nerds now because it's kind of vogue to say that you were a nerd. I really I got my stripes, you know, I got my stripes. I was a legit nerd, which means I was alone a lot, which means that I was watching a lot of television. And television set the model for the world in a lot of ways, and characters on television set a model for me in a lot of ways. Another character that I modeled myself after was Will on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You know, as a preteen, going out and trying to be that dude, trying to be cool, trying to talk, talking to girls, like the kind of sense of humor that I felt like I needed to adopt was Will Smith's sense of humor on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I just acted like Will on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And those characters were very, very meaningful to me. And that's probably why I'm also, you have people that are very into celebrity gossip. You have people that are neutral. And then you have me who actively shut down and refuse to ingest celebrity gossip. I act like it's just, like you're trying to give me a homework assignment or something. Like, that's how much I don't want to hear celebrity gossip. And The reasoning that I always gave for that was I objected to the idolatry of wealth and fame, which I do. But I think there was also part of that didn't want to destroy the relationships that I had built with these characters by having the real people interfere. You know, because if the actors and the real people become entities to themselves, then it becomes a little bit more difficult to maintain that relationship with the character, or so I thought. So interestingly enough, as much as I related to and looked up to those characters, I didn't know a ton about Malcolm-Jamal Warner. I can't help but know a lot about Will Smith. That's against my will. That's against my will. But I don't know any more than your average Joe. You would never think how much I watched and related and modeled my behavior after that character. You would never think that I had that tight a relationship with that character based on how I relate to Will Smith. But it's one of those relationships that, like, people talk about, I think, parasocial relationships. People talk about that more now because of, you know, online and people being able to communicate with creators and, like, you know, what we're doing right here. So it gets a lot more conversation now. And I have to feel some gratitude for going to prep school when I was in high school and we couldn't watch television. And so that really kind of snapped me out of that imaginary dream world that I had created for myself. And it was an imaginary dream world. One day I'm gonna do a video and I need to get real comfortable. When I get real comfortable, that'll be a whole video unto itself. This is my first video back, so I'm not ready to talk about all that. But I will. I'll get there. And then you have a guy like Hulk Hogan, right? A guy like Hulk Hogan who became a real three-dimensional person outside of the character that he created. Again, knowledge against our will. Much of what I learned about Hulk Hogan as an adult, absolutely against my will. But we couldn't help, by virtue of the things that we heard, but feel a ways about the character that he had created. Because it became so apparent that that was in fact a character that he had created. And it's a bit of a loss, I think. It's a bit of a loss. Not his passing, but his living. What we found out about the man behind the ripped shirt was a bit of a loss for my childhood. It was. As was the loss of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. But with Hulk Hogan, it had already happened. Guess that means we're getting old. I also said on that live, I am older than the dad was in the Wonder Years, which is one of my favorite shows. And growing up as a kid, I thought the dad in the Wonder Years was 85 years old. I thought he was 174 years old. I am now older than the dad was in the Wonder Years, which is terrifying. But what can you do but sit here and talk about it?
got a message that I wanna send across the world. Listen.